School Aid South Africa is a non-profit organization that distributes educational and extracurricular resources to developing countries. The organization works with township schools to identify priority needs. They also offer services that includes the provision of converted containers as libraries, science labs and extra classrooms. Volunteering at schools is one of the programs as well, most importantly with reading programs, which of course forms an important developmental part due to the enormous need to enhance reading in South Africa. So we have in studio now with us Ntsako Mhlanga. Ntsako is the School Aid South Africa Communications Officer. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much for bringing me here. Yeah.
Now, firstly, just give us a bit of background into this School Aid South Africa. We understand it operates here in South Africa and in the United Kingdom.
So it's quite an amazing organization which speaks to the reading culture in these countries in Africa. But I think more than anything, South Africa, we've really focused on the reading culture here and how to improve quality education here and how to aim for quality education here in South Africa, because we do know that the reading culture is quite low. It's sitting at about 14% and also there's about 97% of the schools in South Africa do not have functioning libraries, which is quite a scary thing.
Number,
yeah, it is. So we have quite a big gap to fill with that kind of responsibility and with that kind of number sitting at that level. So that's what we really do. We're trying to get people to get into the culture of reading and to make sure that reading is the first priority, because it is the foundation of education. And that's why it's important for us to do what we did like last week at Isipo Primary School, where we went to that primary school and we partnered with one of the partners, Stand-Up. And what we did together is to ensure that those learners have books in the school. We donated about 4,000 books, and the learners is about 559 learners there. And the fact that they now have a functioning library is so important. It means so much more for them, and it means their primary school experience is going to be so different now because they have a functioning library with good books that they can read.
Yes, indeed, of course. So I suppose this talks broadly to the private partnership that you have.
Sure.
Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. We have to partner with the right people where we feel synergies, people who are speaking to the same objectives that we're trying to reach. So with the partner that we had just last week, I mean, their CSI aim is to make sure that they improve English and maths literacy in schools. And that is quite an amazing thing. And we felt that, you know what, we have the same goal, we have the same aim. Let's work together to make this a reality. So it is very important that we partner with the right people who have the right aim. So it's not that we're very selective. It's as long as we are aiming for the same thing, which is quality education.
Indeed. And I think most importantly, this is quite an important program of reading. If one takes a look at the International Reading Literacy Study that was conducted in 2016, which actually shows that here at home, grade 4 learners really trailed behind their peers of other 50 countries. So I suppose this initiative will go a long way in addressing those challenges that we have of reading in South Africa.
Absolutely, and it speaks to the priority of the Department of Basic Education. They want learners by the age of, when they get to grade 10, which is about age 10, rather grade 4, when they get by the age of 10, to read with understanding, which is a very, very important thing. Because, I mean, if you think about in everyday life, you actually realize that every single day we have to read with understanding. When you read a stop sign, what does it mean? What is it telling you? So it's important that we already fix that in the foundation phase learning, so that when we get to the secondary phase of learning, which is your high schools, we're starting to see actually improved matric results simply because they are now reading the questions with understanding and they know how to comprehend what is being given to them.
Yes, indeed. Now we've spoken about the private partnership. You've just made mention of the Department of Basic Education. What's the cooperation like, and really the response to the sterling work that this NGO is doing?
No, it's quite amazing, and I'm really glad that our work aligns with their priorities and their needs, because what we're trying to do is really just complement their work and support their work in this journey of quality education in South Africa. So it's quite an amazing partnership that we have with them. We will be doing a whole lot more. You know that they have a campaign such as #ReadToLead. They have the Drop All and Read. They have Readers Are Leaders. So we're really just championing that and making sure that at least those who we want to build our leaders, at least they have the educational resources to do that.
All right. Now, we've spoken about the provision of libraries, we've spoken about assistance in terms of reading to understand. But what else does the NGO do?
So what we do is we do those private partnerships to build the libraries. So in some schools they actually don't have libraries, which is quite a scary thing. I can't even imagine it. So we're trying to make that, and also just to remember that we're trying to create a safe space for learners to just be free educationally, simply because when you get to the library you get to interact more with your peers, and also then you get to interact more with books, with different characters. So that's what we're trying to do, just to create a very safe space for them to just be learners and be learners in the safest way possible. Another thing we're also trying to address is the fact that if you think about the crime that's happening in schools, if you think about all the violence that's happening in schools, if you think about, we just learned now that the teachers were corporally punishing some learners. It's reading that can really get us to a better place in our schools, and it's important that we champion those things. So we are going to be doing a whole lot more of that. We are going to be running a lot of social media campaigns as well, because that's where the people are.
That's where the people are. That's where your target audience is.
Absolutely.
But how does it work? Do you have a number of volunteers?
Yeah, so with every library that we open, we do have librarians that work in those libraries just to facilitate the whole interactions in the schools. And I think it's important that we do that. So we find them as school aid, and most of the time it's actually in the community, which is quite an amazing thing. So we're also addressing the unemployment rate.
True.
So it's that. We get the librarians to help us with the library, and then the school employs them. So that's how it works.
So you've highlighted some of the success stories, but I just want us to dwell a bit on this. The NGO has been operational for over 10 years now. Let's just talk about some of the things that you were able to achieve. We've mentioned libraries, of course, but what else, when you look back to the 10 years it's been, that you can actually say we're proud to have achieved this?
So it's the libraries, it's being able to impact those schools with those educational resources, because some schools actually don't have the resources, but now they do because of school aid. And it's the container libraries as well that some schools now have, which is quite an amazing thing. And I think each and every single year we aim to bring that percentage down. That 97% of schools that don't have functioning libraries, hopefully by the end of this year we'll bring that down.
There's hope.
We have to bring it down, and for as long as it's still that high, we have a lot of work to do. So those are some of the success stories, is the fact that we have children who love reading now just because a school aid decided to do that for them and give a library to them and give just that one extra book. I know I'm talking about 4,000 books that we donated, but just that one book that can change that child's life. It does indeed. That within itself is a success story.
And of course it inculcates that culture of reading and learning at the same time. Ntsako, all the best going forward. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, well, there you have it. Ntsako Mhlanga is the School Aid South Africa Communications Officer, talking to us about the initiatives that this NGO has and how they go about, of course, improving the lives of learners in South Africa, complementing what the Department of Basic Education already does.